Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm gonna jump straight into, my, discussion about, our reveal in Loki about, getting, Kang the Conqueror reveal. Well, to a certain extent, obviously, with everything with the variants and stuff, just kind of discussing all of that a little bit more. Obviously, this is going up Wednesday, so by then it should be a week. So most likely this video is gonna have like a spoiler title and thumbnail. But I think it should be fine. Like I said, it's going up like a week after the episode's aired, so it should be fine. But it's really interesting because I didn't talk about this during my review, but obviously you can make the comparisons between, Kang, at least what we've kind of got introduced to is what Kang potentially can be and is, to Thanos. It is that conversation of do the ends justify the means, and kind of like the road to hell is paved with good intentions, where it's like Thanos had like, right, I'm actually trying to save the universe. Like, what happened to my planet, I don't want to happen to anyone else. Like, I'm making so that that like resources are enough for everyone to exist, and it doesn't turn into like a bloody war situation, people fighting over resources and stuff like that. So it's like the best of intentions, but it's the same conversation with Kang of like, why are you the, well, rather Kang is the same conversation as Thanos of who picked you to be judge, jury, and executioner. Like, no, you didn't like get the, like, you didn't like get a census with like the universe of like, are you guys okay with me doing this? It's like, no, I made this unilateral decision that I'm going to be the one because I took this goal upon myself. It's like, no one asked you to be the one who does all of this. And the same thing applies, like in both cases of like, no one asked you, like Thanos, to get all of the Infinity Stones and wipe out half the universe. Even being so egotistical to think, oh, they're going to thank me afterwards too. And then eventually his mindset in Endgame is like, oh, I'm going to actually kill all of you because I made this stupid mistake of leaving enough people behind who believe, like, no, like they remember what it was before. Like, so I need to, start the slate clean. So it went from kind of like, not that everyone agrees with you, but people can understand where you came from. But then in Endgame, it's like, oh no, you're just straight up full-blown villain. Like, no, I'm going to kill everybody and I'm going to start over. And even saying, oh, this is personal now because I know what you did. So it's going to be an interesting thing with Kang too, because it's like, right, there's the aspect of, for one, you're the reason why there is a multiversal war, because you went out, like different versions of you went out and did that, started a multiversal war. But at the same time, it's like, who's to say no one's other's variants would have done that? I mean, we've seen what Sylvie did, as a Loki variant, like basically almost bringing the TVA to its knees and stuff. But at the same time, it's like, there's give and take with that, because like she was kind of on the right side of things because she was stopping Kang from doing what he was doing. But and then because you also had to get into the conversation, and that's kind of like the crux of what I'm bringing up in this video. I'm a little all over the place, so I do apologize. Is Kang a villain in that regard? Like, is he kind of like, and I think he still is, because it is that thing of no one asked you to be this person, no one told you to basically manipulate and control people. Like, who, like, you're a dude. You're not like, once again, it's not like you're some powerful being, because even the Watchers are like, nah, we're going to watch stuff from afar. Even the Eternals, we're going to watch stuff from afar. You decide to meddle in things, literally shift the timeline to be what you want. You have it justified by being like, right, I'm stopping a multiversal war, but you're also putting yourself in a position where you're the one that literally has the most power, because you have power over everything and everyone. You get to dictate like how time should flow and needs to flow, even being hubris enough, and maybe this, I would assume, yeah, because anything that TVA believes is something he created. So he's the one that's like, oh, this is the sacred timeline, because it's also like, this is the timeline where I'm the one kind of running things and dictating things and stopping a multiversal war from happening. So yes, there's a good side of things, but at the same time, it is the thing of, hey, you are manipulating, you are pruning people, you are destroying timelines and destroying lives. Like, I mean, Sylvie is a byproduct. This woman has been on a run since she was a little girl. You turned her entire world upside down. She no longer has a home. She had to exist in 1,000 worlds depths to hide away from your goons, the TVA, so. But it is also that problem of the devil you know versus the devils you don't. Because it's like, right, you think I'm bad doing all that I'm doing? Wait till you meet my variants. Like, you ain't seen nothing yet. Like, I'm a kitten compared to them, because they are going to be the real evil that you have to deal with. Like, because at least me, I'm trying to like keep the timeline in a certain way so that everything's copacetic, everything's good. But you know, who's to say like another Kang isn't like, no, 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 I'm gonna make a timeline where I'm top dog, like I always win. Who's to say the He Who Remains wasn't like that as well? Because we don't know how much of what he said was, you know, lies, what was manipulation. There was truth, but that's always the beautiful thing about a lie. They're more powerful when you stay very close to the truth. Powerful might not be the right word, but that's what makes a good lie, is keeping it very close to the truth. So there is truth in there, but who's to say there isn't like this little poetic spin he put on things, you know? Because a white lie is still a lie, you know? A lie of omission is still a lie, you know? Just because you know, it's like, oh, but I'm omitting certain truths. Who's to say that He Who Remains didn't do the same thing? But what we see is, like, you know, maybe we are getting the worst of the worst with Kang the Conqueror. But what's also the beautiful thing about this whole situation with this character is, because we are going to be dealing with multiple variants, he could pop up at any point in time, and even if you defeat one, who's to say the next one isn't going to be worse? But who's to say the next one won't be kind? Like, because from what I know about Kang, I am not well versed. I only know what I've picked up from other people who are more well versed in the comics. There are some storylines, I don't know if this is always the storyline, but there are storylines where he's related to Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic. So what if we meet more good-natured versions of him, where like, oh, like, you know, not necessarily like He Who Remains, because he's still a manipulative dick, considering everything. He's just potentially the nicer version, but who's to say there couldn't have been a nicer version that ended up kind of taking control of things? You being in control like that, just being all powerful like that, knowing everything, it's like, it kind of pulls away from your altruism a little bit, because it makes you look power hungry to it, at least to me. But you know, maybe he's not the power hungry Kang, but eventually we'll meet the power hungry Kang, you know? But it's like, that's the interesting thing, like the comparison people have made, and it's like, I'm surprised I didn't immediately jump to it, is Jet Li's the one. It's the go-to, because for one, I love the movie. I've always loved, like growing up, I've watched that movie multiple times. If you're unfamiliar with the movie, basically the concept is Jet Li, there's an evil version of him in this multiverse who goes to every multiverse to kill a version of himself, because every time he kills one of himself, he absorbs like their essence, and basically he gets superhuman abilities. Like, he gets super fast, super strong. It's kind of like some Matrix level stuff, just including like a multiverse. So I mean, who's to say? I doubt Kang's going to do that. I mean, who's to say it couldn't be that? Like, oh, the more like variants of myself I kill, the stronger I become. I mean, because it's interesting, because like if you compare it to like Loki, we learned so many interesting things about like Loki because of his other variants. Like, for one, you know, classic Loki was like, yo, like if we stop using weapons, we could unlock a massive potential of what we're capable of. Obviously, even, you know, Avengers Loki, the Loki we've been following in Loki, learning to enchant with Sylvie's help, like that's another power in his arsenal. There have been little moments throughout the course of the show showing how powerful he can be, like how powerful Loki's in general can be when they kind of like, when they flex their muscles and realize just how powerful they can be, you know, kind of like, and in some cases I think even, you know, it might be cheesy for some people, but like the power of love, how powerful that can be. But like, who's to say the same thing doesn't apply to Kang? Like, maybe by, like I said, killing other variant version of yourself, you're kind of unlocking even more. Or maybe they just keep it like, no, like I'm going to be the big bad and I'm just a regular dude that's just really smart, and I'm going to be the worst, potentially I mean, that could be an interesting thing of like I said, every version you meet of him over the course of like the MCU, because whether he is the next Thanos, which if he was, that's so interesting, getting introduced to this version of him in Loki, and then like, well, we never know what the next version we see, we never know, like, well, is that going to be a nicer Kang, or is that going to be a really evil Kang pretending to be a nice Kang, or is it going to just straight up be like, nah, I'm super villain level evil Kang, you know, stuff like that. So fascinating, you know. I really like that it is this moral situation of, like I said, the devil you know versus the devil you don't, because it is also that conversation of eventuality, like that everything is inevitable, which is interesting, and maybe that's what they're going for, because Thanos had the words of I am inevitable. It's like, no, you weren't. And then, like, you know, in his own regards, Kang might actually be inevitable, because it's like, right, you stop one version of me, but there's millions of other versions of me out there ready to like step in. Like, even saying when Sylvie kills him, like, yeah, you know, I'll see you soon, because like, you kill me, there's just going to be another version of me, probably a worse version, that just ends up here anyway. It's like, this is just how it is, you know. So because we still don't even know fully why he let the Avengers do what they did. And once again, the whole thing is like, oh, Loki gets in trouble for what he did. Like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. That's a branch. But it's like, no, no, no. The Avengers doing what they did, maybe that's something that needed to happen for Kang to get to where he is. Once again, maybe this has been a theory, you know, and I brought it up earlier, for like, maybe it is just a thing of, this is the timeline where I win. I end up being top dog. I be the most powerful person in the multiverse because I know what's going on. So I need the Avengers to do what they're doing, because it all, like, cutting off the branches that are, you know, this, you know, bonsai tree that is growing, as someone kind of made the comparison of, like, by trimming off the sides and stuff like that, now everything's perfect and beautiful because I'm, once again, at the end of it all, top dog, overseer of everything. But it also makes it like, how do you stop someone like that when he already went through a multiversal war because of, like, the different versions of himself, and it's like another one is literally on the cusp, and what, you know, Kang is going to exist at the end of all of that. Like, you know, it might be kind of like, spoilers for another series, I won't say what series it is, but it is a battle of the strongest, and only the strongest, most deadly Kang might exist at the end of all of this. There might actually be a winner amongst all the Kangs in this new multiversal war that starts. Obviously, these are some of my thoughts. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. What are your thoughts about the Kang, well, the variant version of Kang that we met in Loki, and what is a version of this character you're excited to meet later on down the road, whether it's, I mean, whether he makes some appearance in No Way Home or Multiverse of Madness or Quantumania. Do you want him just to be an overarching phase 4 villain, or do you want him to be the next Thanos in the regards of, I want him to be the next 10-year plot? Like, that's also a big conversation of, like, is he the big bad for now, and then are we eventually going to get to something like Galactus being like the main, like, stuff like that. I'm curious, especially considering, you know, his potential connections to the Fantastic Four, like I brought up before. Just let me know all your thoughts. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.